You know, from our phones to our cars, the lithium-ion battery is basically the invisible engine that powers our entire modern world. But if you've ever wondered what actually makes them tick, and maybe more importantly, what's holding them back from being even better? Well, in this explainer, we're going to crack one open and get right to the heart of it. Let's get into it.
All right, so what is actually inside one of these batteries? Let's take a look at the fundamental parts.
If you could somehow unroll a standard battery, this is what you'd see. It's this incredibly thin, layered structure. And it might look pretty simple, but it's actually a super precisely engineered system with 4 key parts all working together.
Okay, so these are the stars of the show. You've got the anode, that's the negative electrode, and the cathode, which is the positive one. Now, to keep them from touching and causing a short, there's a really thin separator, and the whole thing is just soaked in this liquid called an electrolyte.
So here's the magic. When you plug in your phone to charge it, lithium ions travel from the cathode right through that electrolyte, and they pack themselves into the anode. Then, when you unplug it and start using your phone, those ions race back to the cathode, and that movement is what releases the energy that powers your device. It's this really elegant dance. And for this explainer, we're going to put a spotlight on just one of these partners, the anode.
All right, so how does this anode actually do its job? Let's zoom in a little closer and see the critical role it plays in storing all that power.
The anode's job is really simple, but it's absolutely crucial. It's basically a storage facility for lithium. Think of it like a hotel for lithium ions. And the material that this hotel is built from, well, that determines how many guests it can hold and just how safely they can check in and out.
And for pretty much the last 30 years, the 5-star go-to material for this hotel has been graphite. I mean, it's stable, it's super reliable, and it has been the absolute bedrock of the whole lithium-ion revolution.
So graphite works through this really cool process called intercalation. It's made of all these flat layers, kind of like a deck of cards. And the lithium ions, they don't just crash into the structure. No, they neatly slide in between those layers, kind of like cars parking perfectly in a multi-story garage. And this whole parking process is incredibly gentle on the graphite. Even when it's completely full of lithium, its total volume only expands by about 10%. That stability is exactly why graphite anodes can last for thousands and thousands of charges.
But here's the catch. After all these years of making it better and better, our trusty graphite parking garage is pretty much full. It has hit its physical limit. And if we want to build way more powerful, longer-lasting batteries, we're going to need a much bigger garage.
You see, to get a real jump in performance, we need a material that can just fundamentally hold more lithium. And this is where silicon enters the picture. Look at this. Its theoretical storage capacity is almost 10 times that of graphite. That's not just an improvement, that's a total game changer.
Which of course leads to the really obvious question, right? If silicon is so much better, why isn't it in every single battery we own? Well, the answer is kind of violent.
Because when silicon stores lithium, it doesn't just expand a little bit. Oh no, it swells up by a colossal 400%. It's not just checking into the hotel. It's like it's blowing out all the walls and the roof.
And as you can imagine, this massive expansion has catastrophic consequences. The silicon material literally cracks and crumbles into dust, losing all electrical contact. And with every single charge, a protective layer has to reform on all these new broken surfaces, which just eats up the battery's lithium. It leads to a very, very fast death for the battery. Now, to really understand just how bad this failure is, we need to quickly go over how scientists and engineers measure battery performance. It really boils down to 3 key things.
First up, you have specific capacity. The easiest way to think about this is like the size of your battery's fuel tank. A higher number just means more energy storage, which translates to your phone or car running longer on a single charge. Simple.
Next, there's something called Coulombic efficiency. Now, in a perfect world, for every drop of energy you put into a battery, you'd get 100% of it back out. But if that percentage is anything less than 100, it means some of your precious lithium is getting permanently lost in side reactions and your battery is degrading.
And finally, we have cycle life. This one's pretty straightforward. It's just the total number of times you can charge and recharge your battery before its capacity drops so much that it's not really useful anymore.
So, here's the main takeaway. We have this amazing material, silicon, with 10 times the potential of graphite. But we have to solve this one fundamental problem. It literally destroys itself every time we try to use it. This right here leads us to the billion-dollar question that researchers all over the world are trying to answer.
How in the world do you contain and control a material that swells and shrinks so violently?
Well, the answer, it turns out, lies in engineering on an unbelievably small scale. Scientists are actually creating these microscopic structures, things like these hollow core shells or yolk shells you see here. They essentially build a tiny flexible cage around the silicone that gives it empty space to expand into without breaking everything apart.
So we found the material. The key to the next great leap in energy storage is right here. The challenge isn't finding more power, it's about building the microscopic container that can finally hold it. So how exactly do those tiny cages work? We'll break that down in our next explainer.